Rain fell hard on the broken stones. It was cold. And the sky stayed gray for days. No one looked under the bridge anymore. They all knew what was hidden there. Or maybe they just didn't care. A girl was chained there. Her skin was pale and marked with purple bruises. Her arms were locked to a rusted post with tight iron cuffs. Dried blood covered her face, and her lips were cracked and dry. Her body was thin, too thin for a child her age. She was not human. Her eyes were soft and glowing faint blue in the dark. Her skin had faded from its natural color. She was from a species once proud, but now hated on this part of the planet. People passed above the bridge every day. Some threw rocks down at her just for fun. Some spat and cursed. She's one of them, they said. Let her rot, they whispered with cold smiles. No food was given to her. No clean water. She wasn't even allowed to speak. If she made a sound, a drone would shock her chains. So she sat there, in silence, in fear, waiting for death. But one evening, someone heard her breath. It was faint. Like wind through a crack, a human man tall, bearded, with old boots was walking through the nearby ruins. He was a scavenger, just looking for broken tech to sell. But the sound made him stop. He stepped slowly toward the bridge's edge. Then he heard it again, a cough, weak and dry. He bent down and looked under the bridge. At first, he didn't see anything. Then eyes, glowing faintly. Watching him from the shadows, he didn't speak right away. He climbed down without a sound, his boots landing in the mud. As he got closer, his chest tightened. She was just a child. Her hands were bleeding from the cuffs, and her hair was full of dirt and thorns. What did they do to you? He whispered. The girl didn't answer. Her eyes blinked slowly, trying to stay awake. He opened his backpack and took out a half bottle of water. He stepped forward and slowly held it to her lips. She flinched, thinking he would hit her, but he only waited after a few seconds. She opened her mouth. The water touched her tongue, and her whole body shook. She drank like someone who hadn't tasted water in days because she hadn't. I'm not here to hurt you, the man said softly. Still, the girl didn't speak. Her voice was buried under pain and silence. He looked at her chains, then at the drone post hidden near the wall. Security shock system, he muttered. They'll fry her if she moves too much. He didn't have the tools to break the lock now, but he had something else hope. He looked her in the eyes. I'll come back, he said. Tonight, and with that, he climbed back up and disappeared into the storm. Hours passed, and the girl cried softly. She didn't know if he was real. She had seen many pass by. None had stopped. Why would a human care? But just before midnight, he returned. He had a flashlight wrapped in cloth, a blanket, and soft bread. He dropped down again, careful not to make noise. She looked up, her eyes wide. You came back, she whispered. Voice trembling, he smiled gently. I said I would. She took the bread with shaking fingers. Biting it slowly, every chew hurt her dry mouth. But she didn't stop. He covered her with the blanket. It smelled old, but warm. What's your name? He asked. She stared for a moment, then looked away. They call me traitor, she whispered, but my name is Sira. He repeated, I'm Leo. She looked at him. Truly looked, for the first time in weeks. She didn't feel invisible. He checked her cuffs again. If I cut the wires now, the shock system will alert the patrol, he said. But I can disable it if I reach the old terminal in Sector 9. Sira's eyes filled with tears. No one's ever tried, she said, voice cracking. Then maybe they should have, Leo said. Standing up, he looked up toward the sky, where stars were hidden behind storm clouds. I'm coming back, he said again, and next time, I'm bringing freedom. Sira closed her eyes as the wind howled above. For the first time in a long time, her heart dared to believe. The night air was colder than before. The storm had passed, but the wind still bit like knives. Sira sat quietly beneath the bridge. Her body still weak, but something had changed. A human had returned. He gave her water, a blanket and bread. He called her by her name, Sira. That sound still echoed in her heart. No one had said her name kindly since the day she was taken. Her hands were sore, blood crusted around the cuffs. She wanted to sleep, to fall into nothing, but a promise burned in her memory. "I'll come back," he had said. She didn't want to hope, but hope had already entered her chest like a quiet flame. Hours passed, and the city above was silent. No footsteps, no voices, only the soft hum of drones in the distance. Then movement. She turned her head slowly. Afraid it might be another guard, but the figure that climbed down into the mud was careful. Quiet and familiar. "Leo," she whispered. Her voice dry like sand. He knelt in front of her and opened his coat. Pulling out a small container, it held warm soup. The smell of herbs and something rich filled the air. She stared at it like it was a miracle. He smiled, holding it closer. "Easy," he said gently. Just small sips. He brought the edge to her lips. The moment the warm soup touched her mouth, she shook. Tears rolled down her cheeks without her control. She tried to hide them, but he noticed. "Crying doesn't make you weak," he said, his voice calm. "It means you're still alive." She looked into his eyes and whispered, "Why are you doing this?" He was silent for a moment. Then he answered, "I was left to die once too," he said. Sira blinked, surprised. Leo sat beside her on the cold stone, his back against the pillar. "I was younger," he said. "After the war, my ship crashed. My own people said I wasn't worth saving." He paused, staring at the mud in front of them. "But someone found me, pulled me out, and gave me a second chance." Sira's voice trembled. "Did you ever find them again?" He nodded. "Years later," he said, "I thanked them, but they only said, 'Pass it forward.'" Sira closed her eyes. "Is that what this is?" Leo nodded. "You're my turn," he said, smiling softly. Suddenly, the light above flickered. A drone passed overhead, scanning the ruins. Leo pulled the blanket tighter around her and covered the food container. They sat frozen until the red light faded into the distance. "They're still looking for you," he whispered. Sira's eyes dropped, shame flooding her face. "I didn't kill anyone," she said quietly. "I just tried to protect my little brother." Leo's hands tightened into fists. "Then why did they punish you?" "Because I spoke back to a noble," she said. Voice shaking, "He hit my brother with a cane. I grabbed his hand and screamed." She looked away. "My brother died the next day." Leo's chest ached at her words. He reached into his bag and pulled out a thin metal tool. "I found the override codes for the shock system," he said. "But I'll need more time to break the chains." Sira stared at him. "Even if I escape, they'll hunt me." "Let them," Leo said firmly. "You deserve better than this." Sira lowered her head and whispered, "You'll get hurt." Leo leaned closer and looked her in the eyes. "I'd rather be hurt for doing the right thing," he said. "Then walk away like everyone else." The silence after his words was heavy. Not sad, but full of something powerful, a bond neither of them fully understood yet. Not love, not yet, but something stronger than fear. Leo stood, dusting off his coat. "I'll come again tomorrow," he said. This time with tools to cut the chains and maybe even a way out. She stared up at him. The blanket clutched to her chest. "Why not take me now?" she asked softly. "Because tonight, I'm being watched," he said, glancing toward the city lights. "And because I need to make a plan." Sira nodded slowly. "Then I'll wait," she said, "for as long as it takes." Leo turned to climb back up, but then paused. He looked down and smiled. "You're stronger than they think," he said. "And that scares them more than you know." Sira stayed under the bridge as his footsteps faded. She looked at the sky through the cracks in the stone. Rain began again, but this time the water felt like the first drop of freedom. The next night came faster than expected. The wind had grown louder, carrying dust and sharp cries from the upper streets. Leo walked with his hood up, his face hidden from scanners, in his bag. He carried cutting tools, bandages, and a piece of stolen Tekcan old signal jammer. He took the same hidden path through the ruins. Same stones, same broken signs, same burnt walls. But his heart felt heavier with every step. Something was wrong. The air didn't feel the same. He climbed down the edge of the bridge carefully. The mud below had new footprints, not his, not Sierra's others. Fresh boot marks, 3 of them, pressed deep into the ground. He dropped down fast, his boots landing hard. "Sierra," he called softly, almost a whisper. No answer. He moved forward. Then he saw it. Blood, not dried, not old fresh. Dark red drops leading from where she had been chained. Leo's chest tightened, panic gripping him like a vice. "No," he breathed. He ran forward, his knees hitting the ground. The chain was still there, but she was gone. He touched the cuffs wet with blood. The blanket he gave her was ripped and thrown to the side. The soup container crushed, and near the wall, small claw marks, scratches, as if she had tried to fight back. Leo stood up quickly, eyes scanning the area. His hand reached for the old blaster hidden under his coat. But he didn't draw it, not yet. A small sound caught his attention. Behind a pile of fallen stone, something moved. He rushed over and found her Sierra, curled tightly, bleeding from her shoulder. Her face bruised again. She looked up and gasped, thinking it was another attacker, but then she saw his eyes. "Leo!" she cried, her voice breaking. He dropped to his knees beside her. "What happened?" he asked, gently checking her wounds. She winced, but didn't pull away. "They came back," she said, 3 of them, soldiers." Drunk, her eyes filled with tears, they laughed. "Said I wasn't dead yet." Leo's hands trembled with rage. "They kicked me, cut me with a blade," she whispered. "They said even rats deserved less than me." She clutched his coat. "I tried to stay quiet, but the pain." I screamed. Leo's heart burned. He should have come sooner. He should have stayed. He should have been there. He held her gently, pressing a cloth to her shoulder. "You're safe now," he whispered. "I'm here. I won't let them touch you again." Sierra looked up at him, eyes wide. "I thought you wouldn't come back," she said. "I thought they scared you too." Leo looked her straight in the eyes. "They didn't scare me," he said. They lit a fire. He stood slowly, scanning the area. "We can't wait anymore," he said. "I'm taking you out of here tonight." Sierra tried to sit up. Her body weak, Leo knelt beside her and pulled out the signal jammer. He attached it to the chain's base. A quiet beep confirmed it was working. "No more shocks," he said. "Now we break the lock." He pulled out a rusted cutting tool and started grinding the metal. Sparks flew into the darkness. Sierra watched with wide eyes, afraid, excited, unsure. Each second felt like thunder. The sound of the cutter echoed, but Leo didn't stop. "Almost there," he said, through gritted teeth. One more cut. The chain snapped with a loud ping. Sierra gasped, her hands finally free. She touched her wrists and felt the skin beneath the metal. It hurt, but it also felt like flying. Leo reached out his hand. She looked at it, then at him. And she took it. He pulled her up. Carefully holding her steady, "We go underground," he said. "Old sewer tunnels lead to the outer sector." Sierra nodded slowly. But then, a red flash lit the night. Leo turned sharply, a drone. Hovering above the bridge, blinking red, he swore under his breath. The signal jammer's not working on that model. Alarms began to wail in the distance. Guards would be here in minutes. Leo grabbed Sierra's hand. "Can you run?" She shook her head. Then, hold on, he said, and lifted her into his arms. With her against his chest, he sprinted into the dark, through cracked alleys and broken fences. Behind them, red lights danced in the shadows. "They'll kill you too," she whispered against his chest. "I know," he said. "But I'd rather die running than live watching." The night swallowed them as they disappeared into the tunnels. But the blood still marked the bridge. And someone, far above, was already reviewing the footage. The tunnels were older than time, cracked stone, dripping pipes, and walls covered in faded paint and strange moss. The air was thick with the smell of rust, old water, and something rotten. But to Leo and Sira, it was freedom, or at least the closest thing they had. Leo moved fast, boots splashing through ankle-deep water. Sira clung to his back, her arms weak but wrapped tightly around his shoulders. Her body was burning with pain, her eyes half open. But she didn't complain, not even once. The sound of alarms still echoed faintly behind them. Drones searched the streets above. Leo knew it wouldn't take long before they traced the heat signatures. He had to reach the old exit before it was too late. "How much longer?" Sira whispered into his ear. Her voice was faint, like a feather brushing against wind. Leo didn't stop running. 15 minutes, he said. If we're lucky, he turned a corner, ducked under a hanging pipe, and kept moving. The light from his flashlight bounced against wet walls. Rats scurried past them, their eyes glowing like tiny ghosts. Sira buried her face in his shoulder. Trembling, "Don't look," he said softly. "We're almost there." Each step grew harder. Leo's muscles screamed. His arms numb from holding her weight, but he didn't slow down. Not even when he felt blood soaking through his shirt, his own blood. The wound from before had reopened. They reached a rusted metal door covered in thick vines. Leo kicked it hard. Once, twice, 3 times, till it groaned open. On the other side was an old maintenance room, full of broken tools and a dusty chair. He laid Sira down gently on a soft cloth he had rolled up. "You're bleeding," she whispered, eyes wide with worry. "I'll be fine," he said, even though his face was pale. He tore a piece of his shirt and wrapped it around his side, then turned back to her. "You okay?" She nodded, tears forming again. "You saved me." Leo looked at her quietly. "I said I would." She tried to sit up, but winced. Her shoulder still burned from the knife wound. He gently held her back. "Rest," he said. "We have time before the next move." Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed through the tunnels. Leo grabbed his blaster and moved to the door. He held his breath and listened. Another sound closer this time. "It's them," Sira whispered. "They followed us." Leo's mind raced. The signal jammer was probably still active back under the bridge, but the newer drones had thermal scans. They could track footprints and body heat. He looked around the room. There was only one exit ahead and it led deeper underground. "Change of plans," he said, lifting her again. "We go lower, but the deeper levels are forbidden," she whispered. "That's why they won't expect it," he replied. And with that, they stepped into the black. The deeper tunnels had no lights, no maps, no guards, just old stories. They moved slowly now. The air grew colder. The silence heavier. Each drop of water that fell from the ceiling echoed like thunder. Leo's breath grew short, but he didn't stop. He could feel Sira's heartbeat against his backs, low but steady. They reached an old access hatch, almost invisible. Leo kicked it open and climbed down carefully. Below was a massive chamber, one of the old power grid stations. Dead wires hung like vines from above. Machines long forgotten still hummed with dying energy. "This place," Sira whispered. "It used to give power to the whole district. Then it'll give us cover now," Leo said. Setting her down on a pile of old blankets, he scanned the walls. One panel still glowed weakly. He tapped it, and a flicker of light returned. A faded screen showed a map and old transport line. It led outside the city wall, straight to the outer rim. Hope lit his eyes. "This is it," he said. "Our way out." Sierra looked at the screen, then at him. "Do you think?" "We'll make it." He turned to her, his face tired but determined. "I won't stop until you're free." Suddenly, the wall behind them shook. Dust rained from above, voices loud, angry echoed in the chamber. They'd been found. Leo raised his blaster, his body a shield in front of her. Sierra tried to rise. "Don't," he said. "Stay down." She shook her head. "I'm not leaving you." They stared into the dark corridor. Red lights flickered, shadows approaching. Leo clenched his jaw. "If we don't get to that rail line now," he said, "they'll catch us, and this time, they'll kill both of us." Sierra reached into his bag and pulled out a flare stick. She lit it and threw it down the opposite tunnel. The explosion of red lights startled the approaching soldiers. "Go," she said. Now Leo grabbed her again and ran. Through the noise, through the firelight, toward the transport rails, their only chance. Behind them, the tunnel burned with gunfire and rage. But ahead was a path to freedom. The old transport tunnel stretched on like a never-ending throat of steel. Darkness pressed in from every side, broken only by the dim emergency lights flickering red. Each light hummed, blinked once, then died. The power was fading, but not fast enough to stop them. Leo's boots pounded the metal tracks. Sierra held onto his back tightly, arms shaking but locked around his neck. Her breath was warm against his ear, but he could feel her growing weaker. Every jolt sent pain through her injured shoulder. Still, she didn't ask him to stop, not once. Behind them, distant shouts echoed louder. The soldiers were gaining. Their boots were heavier, their blasters full, and they had no mercy. But Leo had something else: desperation. Up ahead, an old tramcar sat dead on the tracks. Its doors were broken open, and wires hung like dead snakes from the ceiling. Leo rushed inside, nearly slipping. He set Sierra down gently on a cracked seat, her body pale with exhaustion. "I need to lock the door," he whispered. He found a metal rod and jammed it across the entrance. Sierra watched him with wide, frightened eyes. "Leo," she whispered, "we're trapped." "No," he said, trying to breathe calmly. "There's a backup engine under this car. If I can reroute power from the side panel, we might." A blast cut through his sentence. The tram shook violently, and sparks flew from the wall. The soldiers had arrived. Sierra screamed as another blast tore through the ceiling. Leo covered her with his body, shielding her from falling debris. "Stay down," he ordered, voice hard now. He grabbed his blaster and returned fire. 2 shots, one hit the wall. The other cracked a guard's visor, but it wasn't enough. They were too many. Another blast came, this one hitting Leo in the leg. He fell to one knee, groaning in pain. Sierra tried to crawl to him, but her body gave out halfway. "No," she whispered. "Not you." Leo gritted his teeth and fired again. One soldier dropped, but more kept coming. He looked at Sierra, her eyes full of fear, her lips trembling. "This is the end," she said. "No," he growled. "It's just the hard part." He dragged himself to the backup panel. Blood ran down his leg. But he forced his hands to work. Wire by wire, he twisted them together, sparks biting his fingers. Come on," he whispered, "just once. Give me a miracle." Then click. The tram's engine groaned like an old beast waking up. A low hum filled the floor beneath them. Sierra looked around, confused. "Did you do it?" "Not yet." Leo said, "But we've got one shot." The tram lights flickered, then turned red, then green. The door slammed shut, almost crushing the arm of a soldier trying to get in. The car lurched forward, slow at first, then faster. Leo collapsed beside Sierra. Panting hard, his leg was soaked in blood. His fingers burned and raw. "You're hurt," she said. Trying to lift his head, he laughed weakly. "Just a scratch," he lied. "You shouldn't have taken the hit from me," she whispered. Leo looked at her, eyes half-lidded. "I told you," he said. "You're not dying in chains." The tram sped through the tunnel. Walls flew past. Old graffiti glowing under the emergency lights. Sira pulled him into her lap, her small hands pressing on his wound. "You saved me," she said, voice cracking. "But I don't want to be saved alone." Leo opened one eye. "You're not alone," he said. "Not anymore." Tears slid down her cheeks, landing on his face. She smiled through them and held him like he was the last good thing left in the galaxy. Minutes passed. The tram slowed as it reached the outer checkpoint, a ruined station with no guards. Leo groaned as he tried to sit up. Sira helped him stand. Though her own legs were weak, they limped off the tram together, Leo's arm around her shoulder, her hand on his chest. Outside, the night wind greeted them with cold truth. They had escaped the city, but they were not safe yet. A message crackled on a nearby speaker. "All outer patrols. Be advised, a human fugitive has taken the girl. Shoot on sight." Sira looked up at him. "They're still coming," she said. Leo smiled grimly. "Let them," he said. "They'll find nothing but fire." He reached into his pack and pulled out the flare. He fired it into the sky. A red light burst above the horizon and somewhere far in the mountains. Someone saw it. Hope was coming. But first, they had to survive the night. The ruined outpost sat on a high hill just beyond the city's edge. It was silent, covered in vines and dust. The world had forgotten it, but Leo remembered. He had come here once, years ago, when he was nothing but a lost soldier. Now he returned, bleeding, limping, carrying the girl the world wanted dead. They stepped inside through a broken door. The wind howled behind them, and dust danced in the air like old ghosts. Cyril looked around with tired eyes. "Where are we?" she asked. Leo dropped his bag and fell against the wall, breathing hard. "An old rebel station," he said, "long shut down. But the com tower might still work." She helped him sit, then went to explore the room. Cables lined the walls, monitors covered in cracked glass. But in the far corner, one small screen still blinked a faint blue light. Sira called out, "Leo, this one's alive." He pulled himself up, gritting his teeth from the pain. "Then that's our last chance," he said. He opened a panel beneath the screen, fingers moving quickly despite his wound. Sira watched him, worried. "Are you sure it'll reach outside the city?" "If I boost the signal with the flare core," he said, "we might cut through the suppression grid." "But what will you say?" she asked. He paused, then looked at her. "Not me," he said. "You?" Her eyes widened. "Me?" Leo nodded. "This is your story," he said, "and the galaxy needs to hear it from you." Sira stepped back, suddenly afraid. I don't know what to say." Leo stood slowly, pain etched into every step. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Say the truth," he whispered, "that they chained a child for speaking. Say what they did to your brother. Say what they almost did to you." Sira trembled. "No one will believe me." Leo looked into her eyes. "I believe you," he said, "and sometimes that's enough to start a fire." She stared at the camera, her hands shaking, her body weak, her soul tired. But then she spoke. Her voice was soft at first, then stronger. "My name is Sira," she said. "I am 13 cycles old. I was punished for defending my brother. They said I was a traitor. But all I did was scream when a noble hit him." She paused, tears filling her eyes. "They stoned me, chained me, left me to die under a bridge. People passed by. But no one helped, except a human." Leo stood quietly behind her, watching. Sira continued. "He gave me food, water. His coat, he carried me through the tunnels when I couldn't walk. He took a bullet meant for me. She looked directly into the camera now. Why is he the criminal? She asked. Why am I the enemy if I die? Let this message live. Let someone remember I was here. Leo stepped forward and pressed the signal. The flare's battery hummed, feeding into the power grid. The monitor blinked green. Broadcasting, it read. The message shot into the sky like a scream. Through towers, through barriers, through silent satellites orbiting high above. In places across the stars, someone saw it. A miner on Titan paused his work and stared at the girl on screen. A nurse on a refugee ship stopped walking and wiped her eyes. Even a noble's daughter in a rich hall whispered. Her name is Sira, but not everyone was pleased. Inside the city, red lights exploded in alarm. A bounty officer slammed a fist into the desk. Find the source, he roared. Kill the signal, back on the hill. Leo powered down the broadcast and collapsed to his knees. Sira rushed to him. Leo, she cried, you're losing too much blood. He smiled weakly. Worth it. He said every drop, but they didn't have long. A low roar came from the valley hover bikes, 5 of them, moving fast. They found us, Sarah said. Leo looked up, pain burning in his eyes. Then let's make the last stand count. He pulled out his old blaster, half charged, maybe less. Sira grabbed a metal pipe from the wall. They stood together at the broken window, facing the oncoming soldiers. But then another sound, from the opposite hill. Flares lit the sky. Shadows moved, fast people. 12, maybe more. Voices shouted, weapons raised. Rebels, outcasts, people who saw the message and came, not to fight for glory, but to protect a child. One rebel shouted, Is the girl here? Sira stepped into the light. I'm here, she said, and I'm not running anymore. The rebels roared back with fire and hope. Leo fell into a chair, exhausted but alive. Sira stood tall, her face lit by sunrise, her voice, once forgotten, now echoed across the stars. The sun rose slowly over the broken hills for the first time in days. Its light reached Sira's face without chains blocking it. She stood at the edge of the outpost. Her feet bare, her body bruised, but she stood tall. Smoke still drifted from the lower valley where the rebels had driven the soldiers back. The attackers were unprepared for resistance. They expected a child, scared and alone. What they found was a girl with a voice and a human who would bleed for her. Sira turned back toward the bunker. Leo sat slumped against the wall. His eyes half open, his lips cracked. His shirt was soaked in blood. His hands burned from wires and weapons. Yet when he saw her standing, he smiled. You did it, he whispered. You made them listen. She dropped to her knees beside him and held his hand tightly. You're the reason I'm alive, she said. He laughed softly. And you're the reason I didn't give up. The rebels moved around them quickly, some patching wounds, some guarding the road. Others stood in silence, staring at Sira with something she hadn't seen in a long time, respect. A woman approached, her skin marked with old battle scars. Her voice was deep, steady. You're the girl from the broadcast. Sira nodded slowly. Unsure what to say, the woman knelt and placed a hand on her shoulder. You've lit a fire, she said. They tried to silence you. But now your words are everywhere. Sira's eyes widened. Everywhere. The woman nodded. Entire colonies are rising up. People are asking questions. Others are defecting from the city patrols. You gave them something they forgot, truth. Leo coughed and leaned forward. She's more than truth, he said, voice rough. She's a future they can't control. Sira looked at him, her heart aching. You need help, she whispered. One of the medics approached with a healing spray. This will hurt, the medic said. But it'll keep him alive. Leo grinned through clenched teeth. I've felt worse, he joked. Like the time a bounty bot kicked me into a trash pit. Sira let out a soft laugh. Even now, he could still make her smile. Later that evening, as the fires died and the rebels secured the hilltop, a small ship descended from the clouds. It bore no military symbol, no government mark, just a white flag with a cracked chain across it, the mark of the Free Voice Alliance. Out stepped a tall alien woman with golden eyes and a cloak made of woven banners. "I came as soon as I saw the message," she said to Sira. "You spoke what others feared to say." Sira looked down at her scarred hands. Then back at the woman. "I was just tired of being silent," she said. The woman reached out and gently took Sira's hand. "Would you come with us?" she asked. "Help speak for others who are still chained." Sira looked at Leo. His head was resting, his breathing slow but strong. She turned back to the woman. "I will go," she said. "But not without him. He's the reason I found my voice." The woman nodded with respect. "Then we'll bring him to." The next morning, the ship lifted off with Leo and Sira inside. She sat by the window, watching the city fade in the distance. No longer a place of chains and shadows, but just another broken piece of the past. Leo stirred in the bed beside her. "Where are we going?" he asked weakly. "Somewhere better," she whispered. "Somewhere free." Months passed. Sira's story traveled across systems. She stood on stages, in refugee camps, in hidden broadcasts, telling the truth again and again. Her voice grew stronger, her scars faded slowly. But she never forgot the bridge, the stones, the silence, or the moment a human stopped and said, "I'll help you." Leo recovered, though he still walked with a limp. He stood beside her always, not as a savior, but as a friend, a guardian, and the one person who never looked away. And one day, in front of a crowd that stretched across the stars, Sira ended her speech with the same words she said that first night. "My name is Sira," she said. "I was chained, forgotten, and beaten, but someone believed I was worth saving. And because of that I now walk free." The crowd erupted. Not in noise, but in quiet, powerful unity. Heads bowed, hands raised, voices whispered her name. Not with pity, but with pride. And as she stepped off the stage, Leo met her with a smile. "You were never alone," he said. "I know," she replied, holding his hand, "but now the galaxy knows too."